Welcome back to Akamai TV. I'm Paul Jackson with Akamai, and we're going to talk with Dave Otten, CEO of JW Player, around the player market, an element of that end-to-end delivery, which I think is often overlooked, and certainly in an ideal world almost feels invisible to the user. So, Dave, welcome. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. It's my pleasure to join.
What is the player? What is the player element? I don't want to necessarily describe where this fits into the chain, but take me through exactly where JW Player and the player technology sits.
Yeah, in video, we see the video players being that last mile to the end user. It is the client-side software that a customer who wants to consume video on a JW Player, on a media site, a publisher site, a broadcaster site, engages with video. So the player is very important for a number of reasons. One, it's the actual UI. It's the experience of like how a player is presented. The quality of the video and how it's presented to the end user is absolutely critical. So it has an important UI element. From sort of the underlying technology, it's where the video ecosystem all comes together.
Right.
So whether you're an advertiser or ad network, you need to plug into the JW Player. CDN, so the actual delivery of video, goes through the player. Any other component like QoE, QoS metrics, analytics offerings, it all comes into the player, and so the player acts as a very important conduit for the business side of video as well as the end user side of video, and JW Player is kind of at that center point today.
Right, right. Now we were talking before we went live about the history of JW Player, which is fascinating. Why don't you take me through how you started off and how you've got to where you are now?
Yeah, it's an amazing story. As I was just telling to you a second ago before going online, it's just crazy to think back, but we're over 10 years old. We started as an open source video player only. My co-founding partner, Jeroen Wijzen, was the original creator of JW. He started in the Netherlands many years ago, in 2006. I met Jeroen in 2008 when our third co-founder and I wanted to acquire the JW Player because our original idea for JW Player was an ad network.
Right.
And we realized owning a player would be a great Trojan horse by which to get customers live because our ad solution had to plug into the player. And so we reached out to Jeroen, introduced ourselves to him, had several great conversations. One thing led to another, and we acquired JW itself. But what we learned was a whole lot more than just about the JW Player, than it was more than just a video player. So Jeroen had built a massive developer community, people who were supporting the open source project that he had started. One of our first customers was YouTube. The original YouTube player was the JW Player. So upon acquiring the JW Player and having Jeroen join the company as our third co-founder, we really began switching our focus to software and technology and really the distribution of the player to as many people as we possibly can. And so that's what we went about doing, and we went about doing it in a bootstrap fashion. For the first 5.5 years of our company, we raised only a little bit of angel money, and we were a profitable business, and we were able to grow footprint because of that community.
Right.
Our organic inflow, our inbound lead flow was incredible. Thousands of people a day wanted to use JW Player, and we just used that to slowly build our business, and then begin building technology around the JW Player, our video content management system, to help build lock-in with customers. And so it was not in 2013 is when we actually began really the commercialization of our product. We're now a venture-backed company, have grown very quickly, but it's taken us a decade to build our product set, to build the footprint of JW Player, and to I think, be in a really good position as the market moves forward.
And those developers, you often find that when you start as an open source project, that's a degree of the attraction to some developers. Oh, yeah. The developers have pretty much stuck with you, have they? As they have. As it's got more commercial, as it were?
Well, it's a really interesting thing you try to manage. And so what we try to do to our developer community is, one, just make the player as robust as you possibly can. APIs, documentation, just making it simple and making it understandable is really key. And then just communicating back and forth. So being very much in touch with what people want, what their video technology demands and how they're changing, and catering to those and listening and giving the appearance of listening is a huge thing. But as we've commercialized the JW Player over time, the thing that we think a lot about is what's the offering we want to be able to provide to our developer community that goes beyond just a video player. And so one of the things, and we'll talk about it hopefully in a second here, is that we built a massive footprint in JW Play. We have over 650,000 sites that use us. And across all those players, we see an amazing amount of content consumption by the end users who go to those 650,000 plus sites. And so that data set is incredibly valuable that we're aggregating. And we think the new developer product in the future for JW, as we sort of think about how we continue to cater to that community, is going to be all about providing data insights to those folks that they can then build on top of.
Yeah.
And I think having those APIs available that are all about video intelligence, I think is a great opportunity for our developer community to continue to innovate on the things that they can think of that we certainly won't on our side.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I mean, slightly wider than just JW. What are the sort of the major trends in players at the moment? Is a lot of it going towards data insight, or is it still settling down?
Yeah, we think the next phase of innovation in video technology, so OVP and player, is all about intelligence and video intelligence. How you can actually dynamically generate a user experience and load in a player to a page based off someone's network connection. How can you use data on if your business is advertising to help a customer understand this ad tag that I'm trying to run ads against is throwing off all these ad errors, and that ads are not being delivered and creating a suboptimal experience for our customers. How can we use data that actually dynamically fix those ad errors on the fly?
Right.
And so when we think, as you think about video technology and the knowledge of the JW network, given the scale of it, it's all about using data to actually fix those problems for customers, automate those problems, so they don't have to worry about it. Our customers, we want them to focus on creating great content and great viewing experiences. We want to be able to take care of behind the scenes by using our insights, using our data to drive the best experience in the QoE analogy I just made a second ago, driving a revenue model that works for our customers, so they're making more money, to delivering more performant advertisements, and that's what we think the future of our business is, and it's leveraging the network of JW to be able to achieve that.
Right. And in terms of sort of, back in the day, one of the biggest issues was devices, different types of devices, different OSs, things like that. Has that settled down now, or is it still an ongoing issue?
I mean, if you look at connected devices, surely there's a lot happening there, but there's a couple of devices that are truly, streaming platforms, if you will, that have really kind of emerged.
Right.
And so it has settled down, but obviously Amazon, what they're doing, Apple, Google with Chromecast. And so when we think about, the platforms, the connected device world, those three have clearly emerged from just a pure market share and eyeballs perspective. And that's what we think a lot of our development efforts go around that. Connected TVs and some of the things that are happening in there that cater to HTML5 player environments, we think are interesting as well. But it's not as crazy, my point of view, recently as it has in sort of, if you came to IBC a few years ago, that would have been the hot topic of conversation. And so we do think it's settling down from our point of view. Not to say that it's stagnant, it's always changing, but not like it was a handful of years ago.
I think one of the challenges those 2 or 3 years ago were that the chipsets were still, how cheap 100%. Can you make something that's going to effectively run a player? I think we're kind of over a bit of that Moore's law now. You can get a very cheap chipset that will run a high quality encoding and decoding experience.
Totally agree with that. Totally agree with that,
So take me a bit more into this data analytics side. I think it's we see the same with our customers at Akamai. The ability to give that real-time feedback, almost correct problems before they occur, or at the very least have automated processes that work there. How are you building that into your workflow and scaling that up, as it were?
Yeah, it's actually, so the way it started goes back to our roots. Open source community built a large footprint. About 4 years ago, we began instrumenting all of our JW players with an analytics beacon that would just help us understand how the network was behaving. So we have 650,000 sites live now. Each month, we see 1 billion people go to one of those sites to watch at least one video on a JW player.
Right.
Those people generate somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 billion views each and every month. And so what's happening is across the 650,000 JW network that's lighting up, we're able to see all sorts of really interesting stuff. Where a user goes to watch a video, how much of that video do they watch?
Yeah.
We understand the content, the media side, which is incredibly important. Did someone watch an ad? Was it delivered? And then importantly, you can see the user journey across the network.
Right.
And so you're able to really understand both the user behavior, which is important in video, but the media side as well, across tens and tens, if not hundreds of millions of assets, that actually makes it really compelling. So with that data, we've actually begun to build products to help our customers achieve really three things, right? One is best possible user experience, video delivery experience. The QoE example I mentioned a second ago is a perfect case there. The other thing we want to do with data is how do you deliver products to help our customers grow audience and grow, more importantly, engage the audiences. And so we've come to market with a handful of products to help our customers do that. Our recommendations engine, which leverages the knowledge of the network itself, now is actually delivering recommendations that are incredibly relevant, have driven a lot of lift for over about 300 JW Player customers today. Last month, on behalf of those 300 customers, we delivered 300 million recommended plays, in-player plays, against which our customers delivered 150 million incremental ads. So in a world where premium content and premium views are scarce, to take data to create views that are monetizable on behalf of our customers is a true ROI. And the lift that we've been able to drive across these 300 customers, we see somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 25% lift across the 300 folks that are live. So that's another example of how we use data. The last thing we think makes a lot of sense is how do you use data to sort of automate workflows? We see about 2 million new assets are ingested into our platform for people who use this for the entire JW platform, the CMS. And we see tens and tens of millions that go through the player only every single month. One of the big problems that we see happening is our customers, they don't know what these videos are about. They don't create metadata. It's not at all structured.
Right.
And so, we wanted to take a lot of that heavy lifting out of the hands of editors, et cetera. And so now we're using data to be able to generate transcripts from audio, be able to break up a video, a shot detection, so it helps the customer understand when to insert commercials in a dynamic ad, in a dynamic ad insertion environment. We want to be able to use data where we actually break up and choose the best thumbnail that will generate a click for a user. We want to be able to use data to be able to classify it. This is a video about Donald Trump. This is a video about the New York Yankees. And we're doing that and automating that for our customers. That's enormously important. So using data to automate workflows in that way is a big, big win for our customers. And then on the other side of it is how do you provide actionable analytics to help our customers grow their business? Our customers are seeing what's happening on their sites, what video people are watching when it's on their sites. They're also really interested in understanding those same people that go to one of our customer sites and watch a video, what are they doing when they're not on that site? And we see that across the network. A user who watches a sports video on my site might be going to another one and then watching a news video. And so we can provide that benchmarking feedback that's incredibly valuable to any number of our customers who are trying, again, to grow their audiences in a meaningful way for video.
I know that's not to dive into that. Let me pick out recommendations.
Please.
This is something that IBC has promised for 15 years, effectively. And there are still offerings, whether they're AI-based or previous view-based or tree-based, which claim to offer these recommendations. I mean, the big advantage I see for you is you're not limited to that one site, that one user, that one household. You're aggregating across multiple sites. And certainly if you're looking at the AI approach, it's all about how much data you can throw in there. The old TiVo example, which was if you happen to watch one random episode of Star Trek, then suddenly you come back a week later.
It's all Star Trek.
Your DVR would be full of Star Trek. Even if you only watched it because Whoopi Goldberg was the guest star or something like that. And I think recommendations have always been a disappointment since then. They've always been that kind of, it sounds cool, and certainly set-top box manufacturers and OTT services always claim it's cool, but it's always kind of been a bit of a letdown. It sounds as though we're now getting to a point where you get that, it's what Hilton describes as that moment, where you're actually recommended something that you wouldn't have thought of otherwise.
Correct.
And you think, that's me,
Right.
that's spot on.
Well, and that's we always felt when we built the JW network that would be one of the biggest advantages that we'd have.
Yeah.
And so, we see about 7% of the world's video views go through JW.
Right.
And you see it across a lot of fragmented sites. Outside of the walled gardens of Facebook and YouTube, JW is the next largest out there. And so the network is a really powerful asset for us. It's a real differentiator for things like a recommendations engine. And that was our real question coming in, is will the network really sort of pay network effects? Will they be present or not? And that was one of the things that we wanted to prove. And we think that we've done it now that we've reached some real scale. I think this year we'll deliver, 4 to 5 billion rec plays on behalf of our customers. And the really interesting thing is you're learning on yourself. So you're able to see a user in different mindsets, if you will. You might want to watch your news content, then you have sports content, and then your entertainment content. We're able to see all of that and really sort of take a picture of that user, and then be able to deliver a video when they go to that fourth site on the JW network that we think is relevant based off those 3 places that we've seen that person before in the last 30 days, whatever the time frame is. And so that network element, I think, does make it differentiated.
Yeah.
There's folks like YouTube and folks like Facebook obviously can do it within their environments. The reality that what we're trying to do is actually be able to provide that same power to the broad ecosystem, the open ecosystem of content creators out there, and having actually the knowledge of the network to be able to pull that off is invaluable.
Yeah. Now, it's interesting, we always use sort of YouTube, Facebook as the examples of those networks. Recently, of course, they've been coming under a lot of pressure in terms of being a bit too creepy, seeming like you know too much about you, falsely promoting things. I don't want to get into fake news, but presumably if you're then the third network, there's always a danger that pressure will come to your door as well.
Yeah.
Too much information about users, too much steering in one direction or another.
Certainly that's something that we're very conscious of, and the products that we want to create are all about anonymizing those data, but also providing value to our customers in the form of getting more people to watch more video.
Yeah.
And so we're incredibly conscious of it, as I'm sure Akamai is, and it's something that we spend a lot of time. Because we're not selling the data, because we're building products that actually help our customers drive their video businesses, that's kind of our philosophy. And it will continue to be our philosophy as it relates to leveraging the network knowledge set. Because we win, JW wins, if we provide great user or viewing experiences for our customers. And it matters with the video player delivery, so being performant, speed matters. It also values what the content is that's delivered. And so we feel very good about sort of our position in leveraging those insights relative to some of the other cases where you have outside parties who are able to target and influence for advertising purposes. It's a little bit different use case, but it's certainly something we're very conscious of.
Yeah, that's fair. So if we sort of take that, so the data side, the AI side, the recommendations, and think about the future 3 or 5 years out, is it going to continue to be a steady evolution, or is there something really exciting around the corner that...
I get really excited about the video intelligence side and the data insights. I think we are in, to use a sports analogy, we're in the bottom of the first inning if you're a baseball fan. We're just beginning to crack the surface.
We can translate that for a European audience, I'm sure.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Day 3 of a test match final at Lord's. No, carry on.
Yeah, it's right. I appreciate you doing the translation there. So we're at the very early days. And some of the things that we think we're going to be able to do in terms of extending our value proposition to our core customer base of media, broadcasters, publishers today, we think it obviously extends to the marketing vertical next. And the stat that and we all know in this industry is that 80% of the world's internet traffic is video. And if we're sitting on 7% of that and have been able to aggregate real knowledge in the fragmented world across a big chunk of that, that's real value. And so the things that I get excited about is how our data strategy extends to connected devices. right? Making sure JW Player, through our video platform, is able to provide back those insights, those analytic insights to our customers, not only on web or mobile web or native web, but also in connected device environments. And so the ability to sort of connect that viewing experience, as I look out into the future, data will be a center part of that, advertising models, but also you'll see subscription models are coming into play there. And so being able to be that source of insights to help our customers make really important decisions about their video investments, that's what gets us excited about the future of JW Player.
Right. And you mentioned sort of earlier on about sort of plugging in the APIs and the elements of encoding, things like that. Would that also include things like DRM or ad blocking software?
Yeah, so we partner, at the beginning of our conversation, the nice thing about the player in the ecosystem is that everything needs to plug in. DRM is another one of those examples. And so with the player today, we support all the major DRM providers, Widevine, et cetera. And so a lot of our customers who use JW Player use Widevine as their DRM offering, let's say. We support that, and they can build, our APIs are available so you can actually connect into your DRM provider. So that's one of the extensibility of the player allows folks to do that. The other one you said was
ad blocking, which is kind of a counterexample almost.
We've seen a lot in the ad blocking world, because a lot of our customers, their business is advertising. And a number of the ad blocking vendors also plug into JW. And one of the interesting things about the data side is that you see when blockers are present as well. And it's always this cat and mouse game that we've seen, and it will continue to be so. One of the things that we get excited about is, well, what happens with dynamic ad insertion? Are there ways to, obviously that actually creates a sort of a more broadcast type experience, less digital video-esque, where you're making calls to ad servers that ad blocks can easily intercept.
Oh wait, that's going somewhere that I recognize as being an ad server. I'll get rid of that.
But now the ad blockers are beginning to evolve to be able to recognize the actual ad stream within the stream. So this continuous cat and mouse game. I mean, dynamic, especially in the live events, Akamai leads the way there on live streaming. And that's going to be a big, big deal. In the digital video world, sort of the more traditional ad stack that we see with DFP on Google side, people are using any number of programmatic offerings, and they're selling direct. Ad blockers will be there. There'll be an evolution of, again, the cat and mouse game will continue. People can use JW Player to do the ad recovery, models that they want to have, but. That will continue.
It's a tricky one. I mean, fundamentally, it funds the internet, advertising.
Well, this is the thing, right? At the end of the day, it comes down to the content, right? A user, he or she can decide how they want to pay for that content. And so, is it a subscription or is it an ad? And so, I think people, have to understand that there is an economic model here. And if the content that's being created by our customers, your customers, et cetera, is compelling, people are willing to pay for it in any form, again, whether it be advertising or subscriptions. So that's one of the key things that always have to carry the day here. If the content is garbage, it's not going to matter.
And
the whole model falls down.
Arguably, with or without ad blocking, the views will not support that. You'd like to hope.
So that's what we say.
Excellent. One last question. We're now in day 2. It's maybe a slightly unfair question. Anything at the show really impressed you so far? What have you seen that's really tweaked your interest?
I haven't had a chance to walk the floor.
That's always why it's a tricky question.
But I was at a dinner last night, and one of the things that actually struck me seems to be more so for the first time here at IBC, is how advertising now is more present than it has been in the past. So traditionally IBC has been all about sort of broadcaster technology. It's evolved into the digital world. Advertising now, and advertisers, I was at a dinner last night with a senior person at WPP and a group of broadcasters, but it was all focused on advertising.
Interesting.
And so that
is interesting, actually.
So I think, while you don't see it a lot in the booths around on the floor here, if I were to guess, I think next year or the years after, you'll see a little bit more of that happening, because it's all converging. Video technology is converging with the ad models and the subscription model, the paywall models. It's all coming together. So that's one thing that I've noticed this year versus previous years. And for JW's business, because a lot of our customers, their business is advertising, that's obviously a good thing.
That's very true, actually. That's an interesting, maybe it's speculating here, maybe it's because we are getting to a point of stability with player, 4K is more or less here, the connected devices are getting there, now let's look at the business model.
Right, it's all about, now people have figured out the blocking and tackling, which you see happen a lot, and this is videos at that point in the cycle where business return, ROI, how am I going to make money from all this investments in technology, in content? It's top of mind for a lot of folks, and again, more so than I've seen ever at IBC this year.
Dave, it's been fascinating. Thanks very much for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You're quite welcome. It's always interesting to get different elements of the value chain sort of clear in your mind.
Well, thanks for having us, and it's great to be here.
Thanks very much, Dave. Join us at the top of the hour. Ian Mumford will be talking to the BBC. Until then, we're going to sign off. Thanks very much, Dave.